Over there, good. No, not there. I moved my body, guided by Lisa's voice. At first, I felt awkward, but gradually I became more fluid in my movements and began to enjoy the process. I wonder if we had spent more time together like this when we were married. Maybe we'd still be living together. But regretting it now won't change anything, or so I thought, until Lisa unexpectedly spoke. But first, let me tell you about Lisa and me. My name is Liam. I work at a prominent university hospital as a doctor. Although I was born into a family of doctors, my mother left home when I was 3 years old, and my father passed away when I was in elementary school. When I grew up, I realized that while my grandparents and father were kind to me, they were strict with my mother. Both my grandfather and father achieved high positions in the university hospital. Even as a child, I was expected to achieve similar success there. My grandmother always followed my grandfather's wishes, and my mother obeyed my father's. I think my grandmother believed that was the way to live. But I guess my mother felt burdened, being treated like a maid and expected to bear a child. Eventually, she couldn't take it anymore and left. "I'm sorry, Liam, that I couldn't take you with me." She apologized to Yumi many times. Looking back now, I think my father and grandparents must have told her to leave me behind. At first, I was lonely, but as I grew older and understood the situation, I realized she had no other choice. All I remember of her is her trying to hide her tears from me. After my father's death, my grandparents raised me. They were strict about my studies and discipline, wanting me to become a doctor, but they were also kind, and I never lacked for anything. And I did become a doctor, building a successful career at the university hospital. In other words, I was on the fast track. I married Lisa, a fellow doctor at the hospital, when we were both 33. Neither of us wanted kids, as we were both focused on our work. Given the demanding nature of our jobs, we hardly had any time to think about starting a family. When we did get some time off, we tried to spend it together. When we were dating and just after we got married, we used to celebrate anniversaries and take vacations. But as our married life went on, we started to drift apart. We were just so busy. We often had to work late or overnight and hardly ever got to see each other. Our days off no longer matched up. We even started forgetting our anniversaries and stopped going on dates. It was all work, work, work. The only thing on our minds as a couple was our work. At this rate, we have no point in being a couple. I can't remember if it was me or my wife who first said that. But it triggered our divorce. The discussions about our divorce went surprisingly smoothly. Perhaps we both felt we had reached the limits of our marriage. On a cold winter day, we divorced. A lot happened after our divorce. First, my ex-wife, Lisa, quit the hospital. I don't know why. I only found out she had left through my colleague. I didn't even know if she quit medicine entirely or just moved to a different hospital. After the divorce, I gradually lost my passion for work. When we were married, I was so engrossed in my job, neglecting my wife, but once she was gone, it felt like a gaping hole opened in my heart. I saved many patients for my work. But seeing patients being discharged often made me feel lonely. Patients being discharged are always surrounded by their smiling families. It was a stark reminder of how alone I truly was. Is this life okay for me? What is happiness for me? I started to wonder if I'd just continue to climb the ladder, accumulate wealth, and then die alone. Such thoughts made me lose the desire to work. Around that time, my grandparents, who had raised me, passed away one after the other. I was truly alone. 2 years had passed since our divorce, and I had turned 40. I quit the hospital. In the end, I couldn't regain my passion for the job. With a substantial savings, I became somewhat of a recluse. Despite wanting to move forward, grappling with questions about my own happiness, I found myself stuck. Every day, I was plagued by the vague anxiety of not knowing what to do next. That's when it happened. I received a sudden call from my ex-wife, Lisa, saying she wanted me to meet someone. Ignoring my confusion, Lisa specified a time and place for us to meet and hung up. I didn't seem to have a say in the matter. I got a haircut and freshened up for the first time in a very long time and headed for the coffee shop where we were to meet. Lisa was already there, but she wasn't alone. A young woman in her 20s was with her. As I looked surprised, Lisa greeted me in her usual manner. "It's been a while. You don't look great." I couldn't deny it. Since the divorce, my diet had been erratic. I hadn't weighed myself recently, but I was probably skinnier than when we were married. "You seem well, Lisa. There's a lot I want to talk about, but who's she?" "She's your sister." I was stunned by Lisa's words. "I'm an only child. My mother left when I was 3, and my father has passed away, so I naturally don't have any siblings, neither a sister nor a brother." I believe Lisa should have known that too. Seeing my confusion, Lisa started to introduce the woman to me. "This is Missy. Your mother remarried. Missy was born from that marriage with her new husband, so, while she has a different father, she's genuinely your sister. A child of the mother who left." That convinced me. I felt embarrassed to admit, but I hadn't considered the possibility of my mother remarrying and having another family. But thinking about it, it made sense. I heard she was in her 20s when she left. Missy lowered her head, then began to speak. "Nice to meet you. I know this might be shocking, and I sincerely apologize if I upset you, but I've been searching for you for a long time." "Oh, no, it's all right. I understand why my mother left, but why were you looking for me now?" Missy hesitated before saying, "Our mother has passed away." Hearing that was quite a shock. Although I hadn't seen her for years, I always assumed she was out there somewhere, still alive. Until her last moments, she regretted leaving her son behind. She was always concerned about whether you were doing okay. She wanted to share this with me and report to our mother at her grave that I was doing fine. Without any information other than my first name, she asked me at various hospitals, "Do you know anyone named Liam walking around looking for me?" I was surprised by my sudden discovery of a sister. But I was glad we had this conversation. Knowing my mother had always been thinking of me gave me a warm feeling inside. Struggling to find my words, I asked, "Was she happy?" "Yes. I have a child, and she adored her grandchild. My father loved her deeply and treated her well. We were all there for her peaceful passing." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. My mother, who I always remembered as crying, had found kind people who didn't make her cry. I'm glad to hear that, truly. As I said this, Lisa gently placed her hand on my shoulder, offering comfort. The warmth from her hand felt nostalgically familiar. Some days later, the three of us visited my mother's grave. Missy shared many stories about my mother, and it felt like we spent quality time together. Missy even brought along an album. Photos of my mother dressed in a work apron. Her wedding with her new husband. Their trips. And her holding her grandchild. Every single photo showed her smiling. Although I never got to speak to her again, just knowing she had lived happily was enough for me. Later, I got to know more about both Lisa and Missy. After our divorce, Lisa had moved to a smaller clinic. And recently, Missy, a nurse, joined and got acquainted there. Lisa, knowing about my mother leaving home when she was young and searching for a doctor with my name, immediately believed that I was Missy's brother. Thanks to Lisa, I got to meet Missy, learned about my mother, and even visited her grave. I can't thank Lisa enough. After visiting the grave, I promised Missy that we'd meet again. Apparently, her 10-year-old son wants to meet me, so next time, he'll join us. To me, he would be my nephew. My parents have passed away, my grandparents are gone, and after the divorce, I thought I was all alone, but I didn't realize I had a sister and a nephew. Along with the shock, happiness surged within. While walking home side by side with Lisa, I mumbled, maybe I should practice some video games. I heard from Missy that my nephew loves games. I'd love to bond over it. But then, Lisa said, why don't you come over to my place? I wondered, but Lisa said, you'll understand when you come, and I decided to go with her. I quickly realized why. Her place was filled with gaming consoles and games. Since I moved to the clinic, I don't have to work late, no night shifts or weekend duties. Thanks to that, I'm healthier, both physically and mentally. With more free time, I casually started gaming and got hooked, Lisa shared. Never would have imagined you getting into gaming. It's so different from when we were married. Back when we were dating, and even during our marriage, Lisa was all about work. Her days were packed from morning till night, barely even getting enough sleep. Yet, seeing her talk passionately about gaming, her face lit up. I could tell she was genuinely enjoying her life now. Knowing how content she looked post-divorce, I felt genuinely relieved. Afterward, Lisa and I were engrossed in gaming. That said, I was a gaming newbie, so Lisa, sitting beside me, was like, good move there, or nah, not there, as she guided me. As I responded to her instructions and got more into the game, I started enjoying it. The hours spent gaming with Lisa were just too fun. If during our marriage, I had focused more on moments like this instead of just work, perhaps we wouldn't have drifted apart and would still be living together. Such thoughts were running through my mind when our eyes met. You were thinking about us, weren't you? She hit the nail on the head, and I was at a loss for words. Were you thinking about our time during our marriage? Jess, back then, it was all about work. I mean, I knew spending time with you outside of work was enjoyable, but I never really cherished it or gave it much thought. I've regretted that. Lisa had a smile on her face. I think those work-focused days were fulfilling, but now, I feel amazing, and I appreciate the calm days I have. That's why I don't regret our divorce. I heard from a colleague that you've been shutting yourself in at home. You can't continue like that. Find something you love and get on with your life. Though Lisa said it lightly, but I could tell from her expression that she was serious. After our divorce, it seemed like I was the only one who had stopped in time. Lisa properly faced herself that her marriage didn't work out. She values the time she can relax and find something she loves to do by changing the way she works. I am ashamed of myself for shutting myself away and saying that everything is not going well. Yeah, I get that. I want to think that our divorce, as much as I don't regret it, was a necessary step for moving forward. I'm done feeling sorry for myself whenever things don't go well. On this day, I stopped being a recluse. I began job hunting afterward and got a position at a small private clinic. There was a gap in my career, so I had to start with relearning things, but the thrill of stepping into something new was there, and I looked forward to work every day. And then, I got completely hooked on gaming. Now, my nephew and Lisa are my gaming buddies. Today, we're all playing an online game together. In the middle of our game talk, out of the blue, my nephew dropped a bombshell. Why aren't you two getting married? Stumped for a response, Lisa burst out laughing. She playfully responded, well, it's up to Liam here. Her response got my heart racing, and I started plotting in my head on how to ask her out soon. My nephew's cheerful voice echoed, Good for you, uncle. Playing games with family, pondering confessing my feelings for someone special. My life now feels truly peaceful. I earn less than before, and there's no ladder to climb career-wise. Still, this life of smiles and happiness is what I wanted. From now on, I want to make sure I focus on and cherish the things close to me. Bob, please, just one last time. Seeing Catherine with such an expression was something I hadn't seen in a long time. Even though we had decided to part ways, when she looked at me with those tearful eyes, pleading with an upward glance, I just couldn't say no. All right, I understand. And so, side by side, we headed towards the bustling nightlife of downtown New York. My name is Bob. I'm a 26-year-old office worker. After graduating from grad school, I joined the advertising firm where I currently work. Work is pretty hectic, but that just means the company is doing well. I landed the job I always wanted and am living a fun and fulfilling life. It's my second year here, and I already have juniors, so I need to step up my game. Bob, I want to leave on time today, so can you handle this paperwork for me, please? Katie, a new recruit, said, clasping her hands together. Katie is a petite, adorable lady, so many of the male employees in our department were quite fond of her. She was well aware of this and often took advantage of it by being extra sweet. But I always looked at her with a somewhat cold gaze. Yes, that's fine. Just leave it there. Yay, thanks, Bob. Don't worry about it, I replied nonchalantly when my boss, Catherine, appeared. Oh, Katie, pawning off your work on others again. No way, I didn't do that. Katie, it might be okay now, but you're missing opportunities to grow. You can't always act like the newbie. All right. Katie responded in a slightly annoyed tone to Catherine's words. Then Catherine turned to me. Bob, here's the new material. Thank you. You have a meeting later, right, Catherine? Why don't we go over the materials tonight? It'd mean working late. Is that okay with you? Absolutely. Catherine and I are on the same project team, and we often review materials together like this. Working late with Catherine was always a secret joy for me. As I was daydreaming about our evening plans, my colleague, James, called out to me. James is my peer, and he's the one I trust the most at the company. Bob, you seem pretty happy today. Yeah, I have a meeting tonight with Catherine to review some materials. Catherine, she's calm, competent, and has that mature woman vibe. She's really something. It's exactly as James said. Catherine is 4 years older than me at 30, and she's a distinguished career woman. She might not be a classic beauty, but she sure does look elegant in a suit, and those glasses give her an intellectual charm. Good luck with the meeting. I'm rooting for you two to get closer. Thanks. And so, when night fell, I reviewed the materials with Catherine. The materials she had prepared were well written and easy to understand. With this, our project should progress smoothly. Before I knew it, it was already 10 p.m. Dash, look at the time. How about we grab dinner together? Really, are you sure? I was over the moon with her invitation. So, we went and had dinner together. Having a meal with Catherine felt exceptionally delicious, making me forget all about the fatigue from overtime. It seemed Catherine enjoyed the meal with me too, as she then suggested, want to go for a drink. Of course, I wasn't going to decline. The bar Catherine took me to had a relaxed ambience with soft jazz playing, and we chatted about various things. I hadn't had this much fun in a long time. Even after parting ways with Catherine, I was elated for quite some time. It made me realize how much I truly liked her. After that night, we often went out for meals or drinks together. I hoped to move past the barriers of being boss and subordinate, but taking that next step proved to be difficult. However, a sudden turn of events happened one day. Our project team had a celebration at a local pub. The celebration for our hard work project was livelier than expected, and Catherine was no exception. At the after party, she got quite drunk, her face turning bright red, and she became tipsy. I couldn't let her go home by herself in that state. Considering my apartment was close by, I took her home. Of course, I simply took care of her and nothing else happened. The next morning, Catherine was in a panic. "Wait, why am I in Bob's apartment?" "Don't worry, nothing happened between us. Would you like some coffee? You're genuinely kind, Bob." "Not to everyone. It's because it's you, Catherine." Bob. From that day, our relationship deepened, and we soon began dating. Since we already knew each other well through work, our relationship progressed smoothly, and we decided to get married a year later. Bob, congratulations on your marriage. Wish you both happiness. My close friend, James, and everyone at work were delighted for us. I always thought Catherine and I would sail smoothly in our marital journey. But, a while after the wedding, Catherine suddenly became distant. "Catherine, how about we go out for dinner tonight? I think I'll pass." Usually, she would have instantly said yes with a smile. While I was taken aback from her response, Katie approached me. "Bob, I have some more question about this paperwork." Katie, as always, tended to rely on others for her work. Whenever she had a task, she had this habit of involving someone else. However, she isn't unintelligent. Lately, I've been thinking that with proper encouragement, she might show growth. Well, since Catherine declined my dinner invitation, maybe I should help Katie out tonight. "All right, let's do this together." Yay. Katie and I worked late for about an hour, and I got home to my apartment by 9 p.m. But Catherine wasn't home yet. She wasn't at work, so where could she have gone? I prepared dinner and waited. Around 10 p.m., she finally came home. "Welcome home. Dinner's ready. I'm not hungry." Once again, I was stung by Catherine's rejection. She walked briskly past me without any emotion. I thought I caught a faint scent of soap from her. Where had she been? Truth be told, for over 2 months now, our nights had been devoid of intimacy. It hasn't even been a year since we got married, yet our relationship had lost its spark. Ironically, our favorite bar, where we often went after late nights at work, had recently closed down. I thought we'd always be a happy couple, but reality isn't so kind. Of course, I love Catherine and wish to be with her forever. So, I plan to patiently rebuild our relationship. But, as if mocking my feelings, a new crisis loomed over our marriage. A few days later, a new department head named Daniel was assigned to our branch. Apparently, he'd been working in our overseas branch abroad and spoke fluent Spanish. He had many accomplishments and was expected to climb the corporate ladder. "I'm Daniel. I hope to utilize my experience from the overseas branch and fulfill my duties as the head of department." Daniel said that and bowed his head. Tall, handsome, and dressed sharply, Daniel had a refreshing aura of competence about him. But later, I'd come to know his true colors. "You're Bob, right? You married Catherine." Even though I felt it was rude for him to use my wife's name so casually, I couldn't retort as he was my superior. I just responded, "Yes." Daniel then said, with a hint of mockery, "Just so you know, she's quite the player. Actually, she and I dated briefly in the past, and it was quite a drama. Just be careful so she doesn't cheat on you." I was deeply shocked by Daniel's words, standing frozen for a moment. It was already shocking to hear Catherine labeled as a player, but to discover she had once dated him. Already lacking self-confidence, the words from Daniel, combined with Catherine's cold attitude, deeply wounded me. After that, I began to view Catherine with suspicion, She continued avoiding me. But I frequently saw her talking to my co-worker, James, at the office. "James, can I talk to you for a moment?" "Sure thing." Though they claimed it was about a project, Catherine and James seemed unusually close. I've also noticed they've been working late together more often recently. I always considered James a good friend, and he had mentioned finding Catherine attractive. Maybe James had feelings for Catherine too. Daniel often called Catherine over and they'd talk privately. Could it be that Daniel still had lingering feelings for her? Lately, Catherine seemed distant and often came home late. Recalling the day she came home with a scent of soap, I couldn't help but imagine the worst. One day, I witnessed a decisive scene. On my way home, intending to stop by a bookstore, I spotted Catherine with Daniel. Holding my breath, I watched them enter a cafe side by side. I barely remember making my way home afterwards. I found myself in a daze on the sofa, tears blurring my vision. I had never imagined being betrayed by Catherine. Maybe, in her eyes, I was just a replacement for Daniel. Compared to an impressive head of department like him, I probably seemed dull to her. Or maybe she had grown tired of me. That's why she seemed so friendly with James lately. That night, too upset to face Catherine, I went to bed with a heavy heart. The next day, I braced myself to confront Catherine about everything. That evening, by chance, Catherine came home early. "If you're unhappy with me, we can divorce." I finally blurted out. I know that divorce isn't a simple decision. But I couldn't handle the lingering uneasiness any longer. She looked shocked. Perhaps she hadn't thought I'd discovered her affair. "What's this all about, Bob? I saw you with Daniel yesterday. Considering how late you've been coming home, it all made sense. Maybe it's time we part ways." When I said that, Catherine remained silent for a while. She seemed to be thinking of a way out of the situation. After a long silence, she then said, "You're right, I've been strange lately. Hey, do you want to do it just one more time, like we used to, okay?" What? I never dreamed that Catherine would invite me out at the very end. Even though she had been avoiding me for so long, the timing now seemed too convenient. Still, Catherine pleaded passionately. "Bob, please, just one last time." It had been a while since I'd seen Catherine look this way. Even though we had decided to part ways, when she begged me with teary eyes and an upward glance, I found it almost impossible to refuse. "Okay, I understand." We headed downtown the next night. Silently following Catherine, we arrived at the bar that I thought had closed down. As I stood there in shock, Catherine opened the door, and a male bartender greeted us. "Good to see you both. I opened the bar especially for your anniversary." Hearing the bartender's words, I was taken aback. With all the focus on Catherine's actions, I had forgotten that today was our wedding anniversary. "Thank you so much for accommodating us on this special occasion," Catherine said, bowing to the bartender. The fact that she'd made such a reservation after betraying me. I couldn't comprehend Catherine's true intentions. As we sat at the bar counter, we were served special cocktails for our anniversary. As we toasted, Catherine began. "I'm sorry for avoiding you lately. I think I've already figured out your real feelings." "It's not like that. Over the past year, I've gained a lot of weight, my skin's a mess from all the overtime, and I felt like I was letting myself go." I was taken aback by Catherine's confession. I had no idea she had these concerns. Catherine, with tears in her eyes, continued. "I'm older than you, and I never felt good about my appearance. There were younger and cuter girls like Katie at the office, and I felt so insecure. That's why I started dieting and secretly going to the gym, but I wasn't seeing results, and I sometimes took it out on you. I've been awful, hadn't I?" I never would have imagined Catherine felt that way. In my mind, I was just being kind to Katie, but it seemed that Catherine was insecure about it. It became clear that Catherine's soap-like scent was from her gym visits. However, something still didn't sit right with me. Her closeness with James and Daniel. But you were often with Daniel, and you were quite close with James too, weren't you? Well, about that. Just as Catherine was about to explain, my phone rang. It was James. Bob, I got word from Catherine. Let me explain my side too. I have a big favor, and it's absolutely confidential, but I've been secretly assigned as an internal auditor in our department. According to James, he was secretly appointed to observe the interpersonal dynamics of our department. It seemed to be a response to increasing cases of harassment and a rising number of employees quitting. He had been tasked with listening to employees' concerns and reporting them up the chain. Ever since Daniel returned, he's been persistently bothering me. James happened to see him making moves on me at the office. That guy betrayed and cheated on me in the past, and now he's trying to control me. He's lost his marbles. While Daniel had portrayed Catherine as unfaithful, it turned out he was the real philanderer. Thanks to James's advice, I warned Daniel in a cafe that if he didn't stop pestering me, I'd go to the police. Fearing legal trouble, he backed off. I didn't involve the police this time, but I reported everything about him to our superiors, so I believe his reputation has plummeted. Is that so? With everything revealed, I was dumbstruck. I had thought Catherine had betrayed me, but that wasn't the case. I know we've had our misunderstandings, and I regret leading us to this point, but I truly love you, Bob. I should have explained everything to you properly earlier. I'm really sorry. Saying this, Catherine looked me straight in the eyes with an apologetic gaze. All this time, I had believed she despised me, but that was my misunderstanding. I was embarrassed for doubting her. I still love Catherine and never want to let her go. Thanks for being honest with me. I'm sorry for not trusting you. Can we start over? Yes, Bob. I love every part of you, and I can't imagine being with anyone else. And so, we raised our glasses, celebrating our anniversary. We couldn't thank the bartender enough for opening the bar, supposedly closed, just for our celebration. We partied late into the night, just like old times. This day marked a renewed mutual understanding between us. We might face misunderstandings in the future. But if we face each other sincerely, we can always start over. From now on, I hope we can sit down like this, share a drink, and speak our truths. Time and time again. Later on, Daniel didn't learn his lesson and started bothering Katie. It turns out that Katie tried to manipulate the hem, which resulted in her being stalked. In the end, Katie reported this to the upper management, and Daniel was relocated to a regional office. I never expected such a thing to happen to me. From now on, I'll stand on my own 2 feet professionally. Katie declared her determination to reform, which is truly a win-win situation for everyone. I stumbled upon my neighbor's secret. But that secret became the catalyst for a change in our relationship. What I'm about to share is a dramatic experience that happened to me. My name is John, 30 years old. I work in the accounting department of a company. Besides general clerical work, I handle things like prepayment of expenses and transportation. I also create ledgers and gather data, but compared to the more glamorous HR or sales departments, my job might seem rather mundane. However, I don't dislike my work. I've been working there since I graduated, and I don't have to work overtime, so I don't get stressed out at work. I often have to crunch numbers, and it feels good when the numbers fit together perfectly. Considering my personality, I always felt this job was a perfect fit for me. But one day, an incident occurred. It was on a Monday when I arrived at work. The entire accounting department, a few of whom had already come in, was all abuzz. There seemed to be an error with a transaction with a client. Worse still, the mistake was being pinned on me. There was a payment error logged under my account. But I have no memory of making such a mistake. John, you made a terrible mistake. It's a matter of trust. It cannot be solved with an apology. The manager said, glaring at me. I didn't do anything of the sort. Sure enough, that client was managed by both me and another guy named Mike. Mike has been looking out for me since I was a rookie, and he's a senior colleague I trust. He claimed he hadn't made any errors either, but the login history pointed to me. Everyone seemed convinced that I was the one at fault. In the end, I was blamed for the mistake and got demoted as a result. Who unintentionally made the mistake and pinned it on me? Or was there someone who didn't like me and tried to frame me on purpose? And so, I had to leave the main office without ever learning the truth. On my last day at the main office, Mike came to see me. Mike, I really appreciate all you've done for me. As I said that and bowed my head, Mike bowed even deeper, almost to the point where his head would touch his knees. John, I'm so sorry. It was me. I was the one who messed up. I was taken aback and couldn't immediately respond to Mike's words. The money transfer error to the client that both Mike and I were responsible for. Of course, initially, I had suspected that maybe Mike was the one who messed up. But I quickly dismissed that thought. Ever since I was a newbie, Mike had always been there for me, giving advice on my concerns. Even when the boss was mad, he'd stand up for me multiple times. He is such a good-natured person who takes good care of people and cannot leave a junior who cannot do his job well. There's no way someone like him would pin a mistake on me. I had assumed that someone had used my login history to mess with me. Never would I have imagined that it was Mike who had made the mistake. No, more than the fact he made a mistake, it was hard to believe and quite shocking that he let it be pinned on me. Wait, what? It was your mistake, Mike. That day, I was in a hurry. I noticed it was under your login history, but I thought it'd be fine and made the transfer. Turned out I got the digits wrong. I was overconfident, didn't get the usual double check from anyone. Mike's voice was shaky, filled with remorse as he explained, and I was in disbelief. But if that's the case, why didn't he tell the boss it was his mistake? Perhaps sensing my inner turmoil, Mike lowered his head again. I'm really sorry. I overheard the manager talking about cutting your pay or demoting you, and I got scared of admitting it was my mistake. My kid was just born last year, and my wife can't work due to her health. I was terrified thinking, what will happen to my wife and child if my pay gets cut or I get demoted? While he spoke, I remembered the photo of Mike's wife and child displayed on his desk. I have heard that Mike's wife had health issues, and right after giving birth, she was in and out of the hospital quite frequently. Mike has always been a loving wife and child. I fully understood his feelings of being unable to speak up to the boss because of his family. And even now, after being blamed and facing a potential demotion, I couldn't bring myself to dislike Mike. Because of Mike, I found a place for myself within the company. He saved me countless times with his kindness. I don't have a family or a partner. Even if I were to be demoted, I could still manage. Mike, I get it now. To be honest, I'm shocked. My career is gone. But even if I get demoted, I'm still single, so I'll be fine. What you did is wrong, but you did it for the sake of your family. I forgive you for what you did. Of course, I understand when it's appropriate to report something to the boss. But I just couldn't do that. Kind-hearted Mike seemed overwhelmed with guilt. I didn't want to trouble my amiable senior any further. My transfer took me to the Midwest. Being born and raised in the city, moving out of New York and working and living elsewhere was a first for me. I wasn't thrilled about my transfer here, but seeing the beautiful greenery and the ocean on my way from the city lifted my spirits a bit. I've never been particularly ambitious. All I want is to fulfill my given tasks and earn enough to live comfortably. Starting a new life without family or acquaintances is a bit daunting, but I thought I'd manage, especially with nature around to soothe me. My new place is on a first-floor apartment meant for singles. It's relatively new and close to the train station and grocery stores, so the rent is relatively high, but it's manageable. I chose this place thinking it's better to be closer to the station, even if the rent is a bit higher, rather than having to walk endlessly after work. It's also well lit at night due to the frequent passersby, which is good for security. On the day I moved in, I went around greeting the other residents. Some weren't home, so I left them a note and some sweets hanging on their doorknobs. The last place I visited was the room next door, which belonged to Madeline. I pressed the intercom, and when she answered, she looked at me and smiled. Her kind smile reminded me of a senior I had a crush on back in middle school. My heart raced for a moment, but I made sure not to show it on my face. Sorry for the sudden introduction. I'm the new neighbor, John. Nice to meet you. I'm Madeline. Thank you for taking the time. Nice to meet you too. I had always been worried about whether my new neighbor would be unfriendly or hard to approach, but those fears turned out to be unfounded. The lady next door seemed very kind. It's rare these days for someone to come over and introduce themselves after moving in. She said that, but I didn't understand why. I thought it was normal to greet your neighbors after moving. Is it rare? It seems like nowadays fewer people introduce themselves when they move. Some women, especially if they live alone, don't want others to know for safety reasons. It was the first time I'd heard of that, but thinking about it, it made sense. That's a shame. It's a bit of a lonely world then, isn't it? With safety in mind, I guess it can't be helped. When I said that, Madeline nodded in agreement. I feel the same way. I'd rather have someone I recognize living next door. It's reassuring. So I was relieved when you came by today. I was worried about who might move in, wondering if it'd be someone scary. I had intended to leave right after introducing myself, but I ended up chatting with her in the apartment hallway. Madeline mentioned she was originally from Oregon. When she learned I came from New York, she said, "Compared to New York, there might be fewer entertainment options here, but we have beautiful nature and plenty of sights. I hope you'll come to like it." She works as a preschool teacher and is 2 years younger than me. But she's so mature that I never felt she was younger. From that day on, every time I saw Madeline, we would chat. My personal life was enriched with Madeline in it, and my job was going well. I adjusted to my new workplace pretty quickly. The people at work were great, and the environment felt open and welcoming. They even threw me a welcome party. After a few drinks, we all got along swimmingly. Despite being transferred, I was living fulfilling days. About 2 months after moving, I ran into Madeline in front of our apartment building on my way home from work. Had it been just that, it wouldn't have been surprising. But seeing Madeline, I couldn't help but exclaim, "Whoa!" She was wearing an apron. I knew she was a preschool teacher, but I had never seen her in her work attire. You wear an apron at work. She had on a cute apron with illustrations of bunnies and bears. She patted the pocket of her apron, which had an illustration of a rabbit on it, looking a little embarrassed. Yes, I usually take off the apron before heading home, but today I spilled something on my coat, so I came home wearing it. I never thought anyone would see me in it, so I'm a bit embarrassed. Seeing Madeline in a way I hadn't before. And noticing her cheeks turning a soft shade of pink with embarrassment, my heart skipped a beat. The apron really suits you. I bet the kids absolutely adore you as their teacher. As I said that, she smiled and shook her head side to side. Me, I'm just a clumsy teacher who messes up all the time, but I truly love this job. The kids are so precious, and it's such a joy to watch them grow. While she often describes herself as a clumsy teacher, Madeline's smile always shines brighter when she talks about her students. She must be a good teacher, I think. From that day on, whenever I met Madeline, she'd share stories from her job. But she never complained or vented about her work. It was always tales of cute things the kids did or kind words they said. Being a childcare worker, I know, is a tough job, but hearing Madeline always staying positive and clearly loving the kids so much made her stories enjoyable to listen to. Besides, Madeline is good at finding the best in people. She's always so upbeat, and being around her makes me feel more positive. I started looking forward to our little chats whenever we'd bump into each other. Then, one day, a package arrived at my apartment. Given I often order stuff online, I receive packages like this almost weekly. Without any suspicion, I opened it. But when I saw the contents, I was at a loss for words, thinking, whoa, what is this? Inside was a woman's cosplay dress and a blonde wig. Reading the attached note, I realized it was a princess cosplay costume. While it had a miniskirt, it was clearly for adults. I certainly hadn't ordered something like this. In a panic, I checked the recipient's name and covered my face with both hands. You've got to be kidding. They made a mistake. My muttered words echoed emptily in the room. Turns out, the mistakenly delivered package was for Madeline in the apartment next door. Thinking it was just my regular online order, I hadn't checked and carelessly opened it. If it were just a regular package, I would just apologize and nothing would happen, but in this case, I'm not so sure. After all, the contents were adult cosplay accessories. I don't have any prejudices about personal hobbies or tastes. But for Madeline, this might have been a private interest she didn't want others to know about. Now, not only had I mistakenly taken her package, but I had opened it. I needed to come clean and apologize as soon as possible. With my heart racing, wondering how she'd react, I pressed the intercom to Madeline's apartment. After the cheerful chime, Madeline came out. "Oh, it's unusual for you to visit my apartment. What's up?" She looked at me with a puzzled expression as I bowed my head in apology. "I'm sorry. I mistakenly received a package meant for you, Madeline. I thought it was my regular online order, so I opened it. Oh, I see. I wonder what I had ordered. It's all right," Madeline said with a smile as she took the package from me. However, the moment she saw what was inside, her face turned beet red. Oh no. You saw the contents, didn't you? You did, right?" Unable to lie, I nodded in agreement. Yes, I did see what was inside." After admitting it, I quickly added, "But I believe everyone has their own tastes. So, if you're into cosplay, Madeline, I wouldn't think any less of you. Actually, I think it's quite cute and cool." Stumbling over my words, I tried to reassure her, but Madeline began to panic. "No, you got it all wrong. It's not for a hobby or anything like that." Assuming Madeline was into cosplay, I let out a puzzled, "Huh?" It turned out I had made a big misunderstanding. Madeline then explained about the cosplay item. The princess costume was meant for a preschool event. She intended to have it delivered to the preschool, but by mistake sent it to her own address, and I ended up receiving and opening it. "I see. I genuinely thought it was a costume for you to enjoy in your free time." "No, it's not like that. I don't have such a hobby, but I thought if I'm going to do it for the kids, I might as well go all out, so I ordered the dress and a wig." Honestly, I was surprised that preschool teachers even do cosplay, but hearing Madeline's reasoning, it seemed like a sweet thing for her to do. As I reflected in silence, perhaps sensing my thoughts, Madeline hesitated and asked, "I have a plain face, don't I? Cosplay probably doesn't suit me." I'd even laugh at myself. I was taken aback by her words. "A plain face? On the contrary, I've always thought you have a vibrant look and that cosplay would suit you." Madeline chuckled. "Thank you. I've noticed that you're really good at giving compliments. Being around you, my self-esteem feels boosted." Being with Madeline always made me feel optimistic. I used to think that way, but realizing she also enjoyed my company truly warmed my heart. After this day, the distance between me and Madeline became closer. It wasn't just running into each other and chatting anymore. We began to go out for meals and eventually started dating. 6 months into our relationship, I began calling her just sweetie. And after a year, Madeline and I decided to tie the knot. At our wedding, we even had Mike, who had helped me a lot at my previous job, attend. It seemed he had always felt bad about a mistake on his part leading to my job transfer, and on the wedding day, Mike approached and bowed his head, showing his remorse. "I'm really sorry about that time. You didn't do anything wrong." I just smiled and shook my head. My current job is pretty laid back, and it seems to be a good fit for me. Above all, thanks to that demotion, I met my wife. She's always optimistic and has this power to make people happy. It's all thanks to you, Mike. You really don't need to worry about anything." As I said that, tears welled up in Mike's eyes as he whispered, "Thank you." Any tension between Mike and me has melted away, and I've felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. It's been a few years since the wedding, and Mike and I are still close, involving our families in our bond. My wife, Madeline, is currently raising our 2 children while continuing her job as a preschool teacher. I've sometimes suggested that she could stay at home if things get too tough, but she loves her job. She feels it's more her to keep working. I've been blessed with a loving wife and 2 wonderful kids. I can genuinely say I'm truly happy now. Just the other day, on our 4th wedding anniversary, I gave her a bouquet of flowers, with a note saying thank you for everything. To my surprise, she gave me a bouquet of the very same flowers I had chosen. Even the note said thank you for everything. I was surprised, but seeing my wife laugh and say, "We're 2 peas in a pod, aren't we?" made me even happier. I hope we continue to be 2 peas in a pod, getting along well in the future. Are you okay? A gorgeous woman looked down at me with concern as I panted heavily, drenched in sweat. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine finding myself in such a situation, having led a life with little interaction with women. My name is Jake. I'm a 35-year-old single employee. I work in the marketing department of a women's fashion brand company, specifically in accessories. I'm a supervisor, with a pretty decent compensation package and find the job fulfilling. However, lately, I've been facing issues with my relationship with my boss. "Jake, what is this flyer? We have so many better products. Why did you showcase the cheaper ones?" The department head said that while thrusting the flyer draft I made towards me. His domineering attitude always takes me aback. There's an upcoming pop-up store event at a major mall, and I was responsible for the flyer. Well, malls attract people from all walks of life. We need to have affordable products so that young kids and students can easily have access to our brand, I replied. I've been in marketing for a long time, and I've always felt this in my gut. To pique the interest of folks from all age groups, we first need to lower the barrier to entry. However, the department head is always fixated on maximizing profits and has always strongly opposed my approach. He insists that the flyer should target only the affluent and not students who won't spend much. He then threw the flyer draft I made on his desk in frustration. I held back my sigh and decided to redesign the flyer. I had no choice but to follow the orders of my superior. However, deep down, I felt that our department wouldn't achieve results this way. And I wasn't the only one who felt that way. My colleagues shared my sentiment. Jake, it's always so tough for you. You have more experience in this department and always make logical points," a younger colleague of mine said with a disappointed look on his face. The department head has always been quite intimidating to me. He's a 40-year-old married man and is related to one of the company's executives. Being highly educated and well-connected, he was transferred to the marketing department just 6 months ago and became a department head. In reality, he isn't very popular among the staff. Most of the employees respect me more since I've been in the department for much longer. The department head, being overly confident because of his educational background, seemed to be irked by this. He always tried to take initiatives to showcase his abilities, but they hardly ever turned out well, causing disruptions. He always criticized me, as if to vent his frustrations. "You are still single, a leader should have a stable family life, but I guess that might be difficult for someone like you," he often mocked, looking down on me for being single. It's true that I'm not the kind to attract a lot of female attention, and I've never been in a relationship. Frankly, I was tired of dealing with a boss like him. But I never once thought of quitting. I have strong emotions tied to this job. The reason I got interested in accessories was because of my older sister, Sarah. "Jake, what happened? Something wrong?" "Yes, sis. I get bullied at school again. I was often bullied during my middle school years, and I would often cry at home. When I was a kid, I was slow in my movements, and that made me a target for bullying. I was bad at sports, struggled with studies, and to top it off, I was a crybaby. I really hated that about myself." "Jake, cheer up. There's something special about you, Jake. Look, I'm giving you this." And she gave me a bracelet made of power stones. The bracelet, with its tasteful color combination, shone brilliantly and caught my eye. "You're giving this to me?" "Yes. I picked out tiger's eye and quartz from my collection to make this bracelet. You made this especially for me. I had fun making it with my friends. Don't you feel happy when you give something special to the ones you love, sis? Tiger's eye will give you courage, and quartz will purify your heart. They'll always be there to support you, Jake. Your kindness is also your strength. Believe in yourself." She said it with a warm smile. That comforting word and smile, I can't even begin to tell you how much they saved me. "Thanks, sis. I'll do my best." Feeling empowered by that bracelet, I changed my mindset the very next day. I put in my best efforts, slowly overcoming my weaknesses. While there were things I still wasn't good at, an unfounded confidence like "I can do it too" rejuvenated me. School, which used to be just a daily grind, became something I looked forward to. Before I knew it, many friends started to gather around me. No one dislikes a person who's always happy and smiling. Gradually, even those who bullied me began to drift away. A smile has the power to uplift everyone around. I realized this thanks to the bracelet my sister gave me. My sister passed away from an illness when I was in high school, but I'm forever grateful to her. She was so compassionate and loved by everyone. If I ever pass away, I want Jake to have my collection. She left behind her collection of power stones and beads for me. The box was filled with shimmering gems, and each piece brought back memories of her, moving me to tears. She often said, "Someday, I want to open a jewelry store with friends." She must have wanted to convey her feelings to many people through jewelry, just as she had done for me. It was such a dream befitting of her. Inheriting her dream, I entered the same industry. I take off the bracelet she gave me during work, but it is still my most treasured possession. Whenever I faced challenges at work, that bracelet would uplift me. The sparkle of the power stones seemed to mirror her comforting smile. Even when things aren't going well, if I give it my all, things will surely turn around. I kept a positive outlook, dealing with the stress I faced from my boss. Life was a routine between home and work, But one day, I found myself caught in an unexpected trouble. Well, I better get to work early. To prepare for the meeting in my department, I left home an hour earlier than usual. Honestly, if I went to the office at the regular time, I'd make it just fine. But on meeting days, my supervisor, the department head, always makes unreasonable demands of me. Right before the meeting, he might suddenly ask for additional documents or say things like, "It's expected that you come in before me." Feeling pretty down, I was on my way to the office when I suddenly heard a woman scream, "Help, please stop." The voice came from a narrow alleyway between two buildings. I quickly ran towards the voice. There, I saw a stunning woman in her late 20s being harassed by two thugs. "There's no need to be so scared. Come on, have some fun with us." Saying this, the thugs tried to get closer to the woman. Unable to stand by and watch, I quickly positioned myself between the woman and the thugs. Both the woman and the two thugs looked shocked at my sudden appearance. "Who the hell is this guy? She's clearly not interested. Back off. Who do you think you are?" Standing in front of the larger thug, I was internally freaking out. I was terrified. But I couldn't just look away. Due to the tension and pressure, I started sweating profusely. Are you okay?" she asked, looking deeply concerned. "Don't worry about me, just go. Hurry." Never in my life, where I've had little interaction with women, did I imagine I'd find myself in such a situation. After ensuring the woman escaped safely, I confronted the thugs again. "You've got some nerve. We won't let you go." Yelling this, they swung their fists at me. I tried dodging but took a few hits. That said, I can't just retaliate here. Doing that would only further provoke them. Someone reported the commotion, and the police rushed over in a patrol car. The moment the delinquents heard the siren, they took off in a panic. I had to give a statement to the police, and as a result, I ended up being nearly an hour late to the meeting. I had called the company beforehand to let them know about the situation, but as expected, my manager, the department head, was fuming. "You were late to the meeting because you were helping a strange woman from some thugs. Seriously, Jake, get your priorities straight." Saying this, department head slammed his desk with great force. It was as if he was making an example out of me for the other employees. Everyone watched with concern, wondering what would happen next. For my part, I had no regrets about helping the woman. I felt I did what any decent person would do. But the department head kept blaming me. "If you want to be forgiven, seal the deal with this boutique." This deal was the one that the department head messed up recently. Apparently, during the presentation, there were numerous errors in his documents. One or two errors might be forgivable, but too many will certainly tarnish one's professional reputation. That's why we were turned down by the client. It seems that by handing me this task, the department head is trying to blame me for his mistakes. I doubt the client's feelings would change just because I show up now. I expected to get turned away at the door, but I followed the department head's orders and visited the boutique's headquarters the following week. I was still sore from the attack by the thugs, burdened by department head's unreasonable demands, and had been having a streak of bad luck. I was pretty down. However, that day, an unexpected miracle happened to me. "Oh, it's you." In front of the boutique's headquarters, I ran into the beautiful woman I had helped the previous week. She was dressed in a navy blue suit and looked as stunning as ever. "But why is she here?" "Thank you so much for helping me the other day. I've been wanting to thank you for a while now." She said it, giving a polite nod. "It's okay. I'm just glad you're safe." I reported the incident to the police, and they were able to identify those thugs. "That's great news. Thanks to you, no one else will be victimized by them." "I'm honored to hear that. By the way, are you here for some business with our company today?" I was taken aback by her mention of the company. "What? Noticing my reaction, she handed me her business card. It reads CEO, Catherine Smith. I never imagined the CEO of the company we were dealing with would be this beautiful woman. Stunned, I gave her my own business card and introduced myself. Sorry, I should have introduced myself earlier. I'm Jake. No need to be so formal. Well, actually, the reason I came here today is, I explained in detail why I had come. So, Jake, you are here to negotiate on behalf of the department head. That's fine. Our negotiation rep is understanding. If you present properly, he'll get it. With that, CEO Catherine introduced me to a male employee named Bob, the negotiations representative. Hearing what Catherine had to say, Bob would allow another presentation. Well, Jake, I'll leave you to it. Bob is the expert in negotiations. I'm rooting for your presentation. And with that, she left. I was impressed that even in such situations, she didn't make all the decisions by herself but respected the opinions of her employees. I, too, wanted to make deals based on the quality of our products rather than just connections. As a result, after the presentation, Bob agreed to the deal. Jake, your presentation was excellent with detailed explanations. Thank you. To be honest, the department head's presentation was a mess, and his lack of remorse was disappointing. I'd love to do business with someone like you. I then reported the successful negotiation to the company. The department head didn't expect my success and was panicking. How did you succeed in the negotiations, Jake? The woman Jake helped the other day turned out to be the CEO of our client. Wait, the CEO? The department head and I were surprised by a sudden appearance of our company CEO, who is rarely in public. The CEO smiled at me and began talking. I heard about your great work from CEO Catherine. You saved her without thinking of her own safety and excelled in the presentation. Catherine praised you a lot. What? The woman Jake helped was the CEO. The department head was shocked by this revelation. But a few days later, something even more surprising happened. One day, I came to the office, and the department head's attitude was oddly subdued. Usually, he's full of sarcasm. While I was working, still feeling puzzled, I was suddenly called to the CEO's office. Nervously, I headed there, and the CEO greeted me with a smile. Jake, you did great work. I'm thinking of appointing you as the head of the PR department. Me, the head of PR? I was shocked by the CEO's words. The PR department is the star division in our company. Normally, employees over 40, who have excelled in their respective departments, get appointed there. To think I'd be chosen for such a prestigious department, but the CEO seemed really keen on recommending me. I was just considering some staff changes. The other board members also feel you'd be perfect for the manager role, Jake. Given such encouragement, I wanted to live up to their expectations. With the next staff reshuffle, I became the youngest public relations manager in the company's history. This promotion came with a significant raise, and the manager no longer treated me unfairly. Things were truly looking up. All of this was thanks to CEO Catherine. She truly was my lucky charm. Just as I was thinking of expressing my gratitude to CEO Catherine, she reached out to me. I was thinking, as a thank you for the other day, maybe we could have dinner. I gladly accepted her invitation, and we dined at a French restaurant. The restaurant had a lovely atmosphere, and Catherine, dressed elegantly, looked radiant. But during our conversation, I was surprised to learn she was 36, just a year older than me. I thought you were still in your 20s, CEO Catherine. Turns out I'm older than you. You must be disappointed, huh? She chuckled adorably. As I raised my glass to toast with beer, she glanced at my wrist and gasped, that. It seemed she noticed a bracelet peeking out from under my cuff. Oh, this, my sister gave it to me. I don't usually wear it, but today I just felt like wearing it. As I said this and showed her the bracelet, CEO Catherine went stiff. I looked at her, puzzled, and out of C.O. Catherine's mouth came the most unexpected words. "Is that Sarah's? You know my sister?" "Yes, because Sarah and I made that bracelet." Hearing this, we looked at each other in astonishment. Right. I vaguely recalled my sister referring to her friend as Catherine. It had been so long, my memories had become hazy. Taken aback by this unexpected connection, we spent our dinner sharing memories of my sister. Sarah was truly a wonderful person. Maybe meeting you, Jake, was a fate. I felt that deeply too. There was a special bond between C.O. Catherine and me. We exchanged glances, silently understanding and feeling each other's emotions. Even without words, it was clear that love was blossoming. From there, things quickly fell into place and we started dating. After a year of dating, we decided to get married. On our wedding day, Catherine wore a unique piece of jewelry. This is something Sarah had designed especially for her wedding day. "It suits you very well." "Thank you. Wearing this makes me feel like Sarah is still with us." The meticulously designed piece continued to shine with memories. Feeling the magic of such jewelry, Catherine and I held hands and walked into the venue.